Night Live. I'm so excited tonight because our guest is someone very special, one of my favorite artists in the world. His name is Donovan Seidle, and he is going to be talking to us live from Calgary, Canada. I'm speaking to you from Sao Paulo, Brazil. He's a great composer, a violinist, one of the concert masters of the Calgary Philharmonic Orchestra, and a really exciting artist. We will be talking a lot about his trajectory, his career, his music. Let's start our show with a wonderful video that Donovan has produced right at the beginning of the pandemic last year. He gathered musicians from the Calgary Philharmonic and from the Edmonton Symphony, and they produce a virtual recording of Elgar's Nimrod from the Enigma Variations, a very touching, very moving recording that has reached more than 100,000 views. So let's start with Elgar's Nimrod. That was such a beautiful performance of one very special piece of music. And let's welcome now my guest, Donovan Seidle. Good evening, Donovan.
Hi there, Roberto. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's so wonderful to see you, and you
It's
look sharp.
wonderful to see you too. You look great. I'm glad we both decided to wear our tuxes.
Exactly, exactly. And you've we've done so many things together. From the very first time I went to Calgary and became the music director there, you were one of the concert masters and one of the most important musicians in the orchestra. You were like one of the faces of that orchestra. And then to see you develop not only as a violinist but as a composer and as the pop artist that you are, because you do all sorts of wonderful things. And our audience is going to get to see some of that tonight. But it's really a joy to be able to re-encounter you since my opening concert as music director of the New Mexico Philharmonic. Some of you will remember one of the pieces that we performed on my very first concert as music director was Donovan's orchestral work called Vernissage. And that was a piece that we commissioned by Donovan when I was still music director in Calgary. So we're going to hear that at the end of our show. But Donovan, you know, I've known you for so many years, but there's still so much I don't know about your career and your story. You were born in Calgary originally, yes?
Actually, I was born in Edmonton, so that's about 3 hours north of Calgary. And shortly after, I just couldn't take it up there. So 2 weeks later, I came to Calgary, and then I started growing up in Calgary. So I've spent most of my life here. I did my master's degree in Chicago at Northwestern, and then I won my job as assistant concertmaster here in Calgary. But yeah, my whole upbringing was here, and I learned violin starting at age 5. And it's funny, my parents weren't really musical people. They didn't learn instruments themselves, and so for them to have a son that said, "Hey, I want to do this," for them to trust me, that took a big leap of faith, I'm sure. But sort of the story behind it was that I saw an orchestra on TV, and you see all the different instruments as the cameras zoom in, and I was really drawn to the violins for some reason. They always had the melody. They had these soaring romantic gestures. It was just wonderful, and such graceful gestures and movements. So for some reason that just stuck with me, and I decided that yes, I really wanted to do this, and I begged my parents for a couple months, and then I began my journey, my big musical journey.
So you first watched like a symphony concert on TV, or was that a live concert that you watched?
Yeah, that was on TV. Hold on, my cat wants to
Wonderful.
say hi. This is Jerry.
Oh, Jerry is great. So that's really unusual because I remember, when I decided that I wanted to be a musician as a profession, I was also very young. I must have been like 8 years old, but I was attending a concert, and that power, of the music that was coming from the stage was like, oh my God, this is what I want to do for my life.
It's almost
And
frightening, isn't it? When the sound is coming at you and you're experiencing that for the first time, it's just so powerful.
it is overwhelming. So Edmonton and Calgary, I mean, these are two rival cities in the province of Alberta. I mean, starting with the hockey teams, the Oilers and the
That's
Flames.
right.
Are
That
you an
rivalry
Oilers?
it's
Are
never
you
going
an
to end.
Oilers fan or
No.
a fan or a Flames fan?
Gotta be a Flames fan. Come on.
Okay. I mean, these are both great teams, especially, when you're growing up, right?
Yes.
With Gretzky.
Exactly. Gretzky and Lanny McDonald. Oh man, the rivalry.
Well, but that's so great that you developed as a violinist. And when did you become interested in composing?
You know, that happened fairly early on. So I was maybe 12 or 13 when I started taking music theory, sort of as part of the requirements for the Royal College of Music examination requirements. So, you know, you start learning harmony, you start learning counterpoint, and it sort of opens a door into the composition of things. And so I started writing as part of composition classes that were offered at Mount Royal, then college, now university, Mount Royal College. And yeah, I just really, really enjoyed it. And I enjoyed things more on the commercial edge of things. So I enjoyed writing music, imagining that it would be part of a movie or part of a video game or part of a large production show. And that's sort of the direction that my career path has led.
And you know, you also were involved with the celebration of the Winter Olympics and in Vancouver and years ago, and that was such a great experience.
I can hardly believe that it's been 11 years since those opening ceremonies. You know, we're coming up on 11 years. And, you know, I was so pleased to be hired on by, you know, a longtime colleague of mine, David Pierce. He brought me on as his associate music director for the opening and closing ceremonies. So that involves lots of arranging, lots of composing, lots of adapting music to use in those live avenues. And you know, probably I think the most shocking thing about the whole Olympic thing was being required to build in contingency plans. Like, what happens if the snowboarder comes down the jump and he actually misses and he fails the jump? We have to be able to like move the music into something else and distract the audience
Right.
and go over here. Like there was so much interactivity actually so required to be built in to that live show. It was quite something.
Oh, that sounds really exciting. But let's start with you as violinist. So the next video we're going to watch is a duo, right? Can you tell us a little bit about this performance?
So I just recorded this last month, and this is a collection of sonatas by Heinrich Bieber, who was a wonderful German Baroque composer. He wrote a series of sonatas called the Mystery Sonatas, and each one of them is dedicated to a different stage of the Christian Rosary. So they're either called the Mystery Sonatas or the Rosary Sonatas. This is number 4, and this is the presentation in the temple. So this is a duo between myself and my collaborator, Kat Hammer, who's a wonderful Baroque guitarist. So this is a chaconne. It's in one movement, and I hope you enjoy it. This is Bieber Sonata number 4, the presentation in the temple.
Let's watch it. That was so beautiful, Donovan. And I mean, uh, how much of this repertoire do you get to do? I mean, it's very seldom that we hear, the Bieber works, and that was such a beautiful performance. Thank you for that.
Thank you so much. It's rare to be able to do those things, and sort of because of an abundance of time we have away from the orchestra, I'm able to do these sorts of projects. So the orchestra here in Calgary is doing lots of chamber music, but as well we're able to do these sorts of personal projects. So I'm really happy to have recorded all of those mystery sonatas, and I hope to do more.
That's great, that you get to be so eclectic and play music from so many different periods and your own music. Speaking of which, this next video we're going to hear is your own composition. And do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Actually, this piece is by Anna Klein, who's a wonderful UK composer. This was, I performed this last October on the stage of the King Eddie, which is usually a blues bar here in Calgary.
That's right.
That's been run by the National Music Center, and they've been putting on a wonderful series where they host brunch in the restaurant, and then they have a stage open to classical musicians, which is fabulous.
That's
wonderful.
Such a great initiative, especially now for these times, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And so it was so different to go from playing music in a recording session for these live streams to being on stage in front of an actual audience. You really feel energy coming back at you, and you must feel that as a conductor when
Absolutely.
You conduct. The difference between being in a recording session as opposed to being on stage conducting in front of a live audience. There's no question. It's you get so much energy from the audience.
That's fantastic. So let's watch this this wonderful piece, and it's solo violin and poetry reading.
That's right. So the poetry is by the composer's mother, and there's a little bit of signal processing as well on the violin. You'll hear a little bit of reverb, almost as if it's been played in a cathedral or something.
Let's watch that.
I rest these hands, world weary, misunderstood, I rest these hands, toiled weary, long before they should. These hands, palm to palm with wonder, surrendered. I rest these hands, world weary, misunderstood. I rest these hands, toiled weary, long before they should. These hands, palm to palm, with wonder. Surrender.
Thank you, Donovan. What a beautiful performance and what beautiful music. You know, it's so fresh because I haven't heard those sonatas before. And so I'm very pleased that you brought that to us.
Well, thank you so much. It was wonderful to learn something new, and to be able to present it in a live context was such a treat. Through this whole pandemic, we've really been missing as performers to, be on stage and have that immediate energy come back at us from our audience.
Now that place is such a, you told me that now that's like a blues place, more like a jazz bar.
Yep.
But are they having regular classical music also performed?
Now they are. So they've received a grant that allows them to sort of expand their operations. And so now they've got, blues and jazz happening in addition to classical music.
Wonderful, wonderful. And well, we talked about your compositions, and I had the privilege of commissioning you with a beautiful work inspired by artworks, visual arts. I remember that concert. How can you forget that concert? Because that was such a controversial concert for all kinds of reasons. But at the very end, we had already scheduled Mussorgsky's pictures at an exhibition with Ravel's orchestration. So we wanted to honor our executive director, Anne Lewis, who was in her last year as the executive director after 10 years. And since she was so fond of visual arts, we wanted to have something that was from her own collection. So that was amazing how you chose one painting and one sculpture from her household without her knowing, because that was a complete surprise. And you composed this beautiful piece in 2 movements that we ended up calling Vernissage. So tell us about this work.
Well, I think on that evening, no one was more surprised than Anne Lewis to be in the audience and to have a commission, because this was all done in secret. We met in secret. I received a selection of artwork from her partner, Tony, to select from. And we had these meetings in secret. We created this piece in secret. We rehearsed it in secret. I don't know how she didn't realize that something was going on, but we amazingly managed to, not let the cat out of the bag. And we were able to surprise her on the night with the unveiling of a new composition, which was just so wonderful for me to have worked on, and wonderful to play within the orchestra during, and then to be able to present the score to Anne Lewis after the fact. So it was just so fantastic.
So since we were doing Mussorgsky's picture at an exhibition, you were allowed to have exactly the same orchestra, which is a fabulous orchestration with the, with the full brass forces, full woodwinds and percussion. I mean, that's a luxury to have all that to play around with, right?
Well, and what an interesting exercise to have the same orchestration by a different composer and apply that to your piece, like to have the same resources as that composer for his or her piece. Amazing. It was just so fabulous. This second movement was based on a wonderful sculpture called Woman in a Helmet. And it's this wonderful sculpture of this woman with her head held back, and she has this helmet on, and it looks so powerful. I really wanted to impart that sort of feeling to the audience. And of course, I knew that you were going to be conducting. And so I really thought of the facial expressions and the energetic gesture that you're going to bring to the orchestra when you do conduct. And so I was thinking of those things and trying to write towards that. It's almost like I was considering the orchestra and you as soloists. Like, how composers will write for a specific soloist in mind and know how they will do a gesture or know how they will execute a certain thing. It was the same for this. I knew that there was one moment, and we get this moment in the clip where, unfortunately, we don't get a picture of your face, but I wanted the Roberto crazy eyes, like just and you just impart that energy to the orchestra. And of course, the orchestra is forced to take on that energy and take on that character, as we do as orchestral musicians. We take the conductor as our emotional focus, our emotional focus, and we take that on and then we shoot it out to the audience. So,
Donovan, let's watch that video right now, because this was the premiere of Donovan's vernissage with the Calgary Philharmonic. And let's watch that. Then let's come back and talk a little bit more about it, because I do have some interesting things to say about it. So Matt is our production manager, without whom we could not do these shows at all. And he does such a great job. Let's jump into the clip from Donovan's vernissage. Let's watch it, and then we'll come back to a little further discussion. Donovan, cheers. That's
Cheers
such
to
a
you.
great piece. That's an awesome piece.
Thank you.
Bravo.
One of my my favorite sounds is at the end of that recording, after that last note, and you hear this whoop from the audience, like someone is already whooping as the last chord is sounding. And I just love that sound so much.
It is amazing because when I did it in New Mexico, in Albuquerque, we had, first of all, a wonderful reception from the orchestra. The orchestra just loved Vernissage. And then I always say, I don't tire of saying this, because we have definitely one of the best audiences in the world in Albuquerque. And everybody loved it. And I was like, yes, because, you know, it's a modern work, and it's new, and people like it, and musicians love playing it, and audiences love to hear. So, I mean, really, congratulations, because
Well, and you know, like new music isn't always easy to sell. So that's such a compliment for me. Thank you so much.
and you have to continue in that direction, you know, because I know there's so much more there. How much more symphonic music have you composed after Vernissage? Because that performance is already from at least 5 years ago, right?
Yeah, I've done a couple more pieces. Fanfare for Kitchener Waterloo, and you know, I'd love to do more. Like, I listen back to this and think of options, like directions that I could go with it, and how I would do it differently now. So, you know, I need the right inspiration and sort of I had the seed there with the artworks that I was trying to represent with my music. So I need to search around for those next things. I often find that in nature. So I remember when I was in New Mexico for the premiere, or for the performance of it, noticing like the beauty of the desert, and I would really love to write something about the desert and the wonderful that wonderful natural environment.
It's so different from everything else. I remember arriving in Albuquerque for the first time, and I was like, wow, you know, the scenery, the air, the smell in the evening, you know,
Yeah.
it's everything is so beautiful. I mean, the beautiful moonrise, you know, behind the Sandia Mountains, and sunsets, I mean, which are so unique. So, you
And
know, you're
the air
giving me
somehow is so clear as well. Like there's something
absolutely.
about it, and against the mountains, and yeah, it's just beautiful.
So, you know, you're giving me now too many ideas, and I'm looking forward already to our next piece that we have to commission from you,
I
which
would
is going
love
to
it.
be inspired by New Mexico and Albuquerque, and we'll perform it with the New Mexico Philharmonic. So,
Fantastic.
you know, let's hope that this is going to be sooner than later. All right.
Agreed. Thank you so much for
So,
having me
Donovan,
on tonight's program.
cheers to you. Congratulations on your beautiful work in your career as violinist, composer, as the pop star that you are. And, you know, I'm happy that I had the chance to work with you in Calgary for 11 years. And now let's just continue, you know, doing some great work with you now, composing, you know, always, you know, great works. So I'm looking forward to the next big one.
Thank you
Cheers
so
to
much
you.
to a great
Stay well,
partnership.
stay safe. And to our audience, stay well, stay safe. Thank you for being with us tonight. We'll see you next week. Good night, everyone.